Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we got big announcements, big returns, and a 6-person match to declare a number 1 contender for the U.S. title. It's Monday Night Raw Wrestling Inc. after show, and it's Triple J bringing the heat as always. Justin LaBar, Jack Farmer, and Korderas, Jimmy Korderas. Justin, how are you today?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited. We're a week away from a historic Raw. We're just under 2 weeks away from what's going to be a fascinating Royal Rumble on so many levels. The three of us will finish the night out there. That's going to be a fun Saturday night. I'm feeling good. It's an exciting time of year.
The only thing bigger than finding out who's going to win the Royal Rumbles is getting to talk about it with these three right after the show on Wrestling Inc. Jimmy, we're getting the gang together for what I think is the most fun show of the year, the Royal Rumble.
Absolutely, because, there's a lot of speculation on who's going to show up, who's going to be there. We found out tonight someone who's definitely going to be there. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling good, especially because I'm not the extra point kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. So,
yeah, he's lucky they won. He's very lucky they won because
he's not very Uzi. I mean, to be in the last 20 years, if you're a kicker in the playoffs on a team opposite of Tom Brady, if you miss any extra points, that's probably the difference maker of you losing.
One extra point, let alone
4.
Yeah.
What a tough job. Like, if you're a kicker, you have either success or fired. Anytime you miss, people are like, that guy, I don't know. But tough,
it's
tough
not
gig.
Yeah, it's not like being a meteorologist, as they call them up here, not weatherman, because that's the only job you can have where you're wrong 90% of the time and still keep it.
Right. I mean, even here in California, you can just say it's going to be sunny. You should be right most of the time. Doesn't always happen, though. I do want to take a quick second to say thanks to everyone who's joined us, by the way. Please do us a big favor. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's something we ask all the time, but it really does help us out, especially these days. We've got some stuff going on. And so hitting the like button and leaving a comment actually does mean the world. So do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Let's chat a little bit of news though. Sting, the icon, he concedes his career didn't play out the way he intended, as the headline states. He goes on to say, "I swore to myself I'm never going to be one of those guys, and I'm one of those guys 10 times over," referring to the people who don't just retire and take the money and run. He said, "I looked at all these guys a generation before me, and I thought, man, why do they stay so long? I don't get it. Make your money, do what you want to do, and get out. I'm not going to be like all the rest of those guys. Just like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to be in this. I'm not going to be in this in 45 years, and here I am." Jimmy, you've seen wrestlers come and you've seen them stay. It's a hard thing to give up, being a pro wrestler.
It is. And, a lot of the boys say that, and girls, I want to go out on my terms. And that's one of the excuses they use to come back all the time. Well, I didn't go out the way I wanted to go out. I was hoping to go out this way, whatever. Even when you do go out the way you want to go out, there's always that chance you'll come back, because once it's in your blood, it never leaves. It is there. And, especially guys who love this business, I do too. And I keep saying that I'm kind of my counting arm and my knees are retired, but you never know when I can count left-handed.
Right. Justin, now the headline of this title is a little deceptive. Sounds like he's going to say something else, but basically he's saying, look, I get it. Everyone said, you think I would retire by now, but I didn't. Sting is one of my all-time favorites, so I'm definitely one of those guys that says he can be here as long as he wants to, even though I was at Bound for Glory years ago when they called it the final curtain and AJ Styles beat him, and I thought that's the end of the Stinger. I'm still happy he's back and still doing stuff, but becoming that guy that hangs around, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably, his days are numbered. His contract's expiring this year, as we understand, with AEW. So I don't think he'll be doing anything else in terms of, actively on a roster. Obviously, the big the big elephant in the room is he and the Undertaker. That's the one that we never got. When he finally got signed to WWE, the thought was maybe that would happen. Now, his first Mania match was against Triple H. I was there, at Levi Stadium in the Bay Area. It had a lot of window dressing, NWO, DX, what have you. But I don't know necessarily if Sting made all the best. I don't know what his overall impression, if it was the best it could have been to WWE. He was the age he was. He was not a tan surfer looking Stinger. He was kind of I don't know what impression, but from that point on, I thought maybe we would see a different trajectory. Now, of course, he did. We did see him work with Seth Rollins. Obviously, that's what kind of basically put him on the shelf in ring with WWE. Had that not happened, and Sting had been retained with the company and stuck around longer and had a Legends deal, what have you, given that I think in 2018 they started the deal with Saudi Arabia, it probably would have been an inevitable that we would have got Sting and Taker if nothing else at one of these Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel Greatest Royal Rumble, one of those shows, because they rely on just marquee heavy one-offs for that. So I really think it comes back to that match with Seth Rollins where he gets injured. Looks like he's, physically done, or at least WWE, deemed him physically done. And then that probably is the big difference maker of us never getting Sting and Taker.
It is. It's interesting because that match, you're right. If that didn't happen, there is sort of a what if that injury or whatever happened was Seth Rollins didn't happen. And if Sting had been able to sort of play things out a little differently, would he have ever gone to AEW, or would he have sort of gotten it out of his system, for lack of a better term, and felt like he's done? But I feel like with wrestling, any type of performance stuff, acting, wrestling, whatever, if you can do it, I don't know why you say you're done. Like, just if an opportunity comes up and you feel like it, do it. I don't think, obviously, I don't think anyone's clamoring to see Sting having a match every week in, 20-minute classics with young guys or anything. But, like, I have no problem him coming back and hanging out with Darby Allin or doing something like that. Like, there's I don't think there's any reason, even the Undertaker, I don't think he needs to say I'm done. If he wants to come back, it looks like he's going to next week, cool. Whatever. Mm-hmm. That's good. I don't know. I don't think you need to.
It's all about money making. You want to be able to you label a match I'm done, so you can monetize off of it. But this is the last time to see me in the ring. You know what I mean? So, right. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the old adage in this building, in this business. Never say never.
Yep. And Juan, by the way, I see your super chat. We're definitely going to talk about it, but I'm going to save it for later on when we're talking about what I think it's alluding to in that part of the show. So I'm going to save that, but I want you to know I see it and we will get to it for sure. I want to talk about another thing that happened, and that was a talent meeting that happened at WWE. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, didn't you talk about that on Friday or earlier? Yes, we did. And they did it again. And many of the beats from Friday's meeting were hit this time, such as Triple H remaining the CCO and firmly in control of creative, while also stressing talent relations are not changing. Talent relations have arguably been the biggest point of worry backstage, with Ronda Rousey recently claiming the company was in flux, and former WWE writer and producer Freddie Prinze Jr. worried aloud for those talents who were rehired under Triple H, as well as their current storylines. The meeting was also said to have brought up the news that broke last week, alleging that WWE had been sold to Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and debunking last week's Saudi Arabia sale story. Justin, we can say whatever we want, but it feels a little bit like when you need to have a meeting like this twice over the course of 2 weeks, it clearly shows that there's some kind of rumblings happening backstage that they need to continue to address.
Well, there's absolutely rumblings. I mean, look, to put this in perspective for our audience, there's a lot of the talent, a lot of the wrestlers that our fans watch that are in the same boat as the fans, meaning they're not learning of things way ahead of time. They're opening up Twitter, opening up Wrestling Inc., and they're finding out things, or they're hearing some of the goings-ons in the boardroom and with Vince and Stephanie leaving. They're hearing about it in real time with, and that's scary if you're a talent. So the meetings are absolutely necessary for Triple H to do. I'm not really alerted or alarmed by the fact that there's two of them, because remember, I mean, there are two separate rosters. So, the guys and girls that are on Friday's locker room, most of them are not going to be at Monday's locker room, with exceptions like the Usos and such, storyline pending. So it would have been weird actually if Triple H would have done a meeting at one show and not the other. Make sure everybody hears the same thing in person, right? So that's natural. I think I don't think this is going to be a big mystery. I know it, and I get it. Everybody's waiting for Vince's fingerprint to start to come back onto creative, and maybe it will happen. But I think it's not going to be a big mystery. You're going to know. I think there were some things we saw again tonight that we've been talking about for the last 6 months that are very much in the Triple H vision. And there are things that, as long as we keep seeing them, that'll kind of be somewhat reassuring that he still is. He said Friday, yeah, of course I'll talk to Vince about our product. How am I not going to talk to Vince about our product? But he's saying it's still his for the final say. At the moment, I believe him. That can always change. But as long as we see certain things, that'll be the proof in the pudding that he's still getting to execute his vision. As long as we see certain talent and storylines follow through, that'll be the proof in the pudding. And oh, by the way, if Vince gets so hands-on to say, I want it to be this way, I want this person over, I don't want this person, he's going to show up at TVs to ensure it happens, and that will not be a state secret kept. There, as many people are there for talent, production, random lookers that stalk the hotels, what have you, it will get out into the public very quickly that Vince is there at TV, and that'll, of course, send a whole different message. So right now, I believe what Triple H is saying. I believe he believes what he's saying. Of course, time will tell.
Yeah, it's something that, to a much smaller degree, obviously, we're here with Wrestling Inc. Wrestling Inc. was sold, and we didn't have any all talent meetings or anything, but there's emails. And I know between us, you're wondering, what does that mean? Or is it still in the show? Is it changed? You don't know. And so these kind of things are important because regardless of where you are, if the company's sold or is being sold, it means things are up in the air. But Jimmy, these meetings, obviously things are different than when you were there with everything going on. But are meetings like this a big deal? Do they happen more often than we hear about? Is this something that maybe just feels like news because of everything else going on?
They happen. I don't want to say they happen often, but they have occasional meetings where they sit down with the talent and they kind of give an update on the direction and stuff like that. It's not like with what's going on right now with all this rumors, speculation, innuendo, and all the stuff that everybody's reading online. And like Justin said, not everybody there is in the know. They don't know exactly what's going on, and they might be looking up on sites like ours and reading certain things and going, oh, you know what I mean? And then now they're contemplating, who do I go to find out the truth? It's a constant fluid situation right now. Things are like we're talking about. Hunter right now says he's in charge of the talent and creative right now. And why would he say that if he wasn't? And apparently at the talent meeting today, I believe Kevin Dunn was at the meeting as well, just to show a united front. And I don't see an issue. I don't think you can argue that the product has taken a different spin since Vince has stepped away. Now that he stepped back in, it sounds like he may be putting his input in, but as we've heard, allegedly he's not going to be forcing. Triple H has the final say on creative, so I don't expect big changes right now as we're looking at it. But again, time will tell. Vince is an alpha male, an alpha personality, so you never know. He may one day just say, hey, you know what? This is my company again, and I'm doing it my way.
And I think people are reacting to a lot of this more feeling that is happening than it actually is now. Who knows? We'll see. Let's chat a little bit about this show, WWE Raw, that we actually just finished watching. It's a pretty good one. But again, I just want to remind everyone, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, hit the 5-star reviews and leave a little message there. That's always super, super helpful. Again, always good to have that kind of stuff, especially right now. We'd love to see that. And if you're in the live chat, as always, let's do that roll call. We got Ricky Zaldivar, Sid Henry, Baby Ice, Dylan Matthews, Justine A, John Jordan, Jeroy J, Night One. We got a big turnout. Monge, George, we got Figueroas, WWE, Stalking You, always putting a little dog emoji. I don't know what that's for, but I always see that in there. Sonny Satara, Tommy O, big turnout today. Tina Miller as well, and everyone else. Thank you guys so much for joining us live. Let us know what you thought of the show. Show ahead, shout out whatever you want. Let's talk about this opening segment. It led to a match, but we're going to do the match separately because the opening segment, I think, was cool. Bloodline comes out, and they say that there is going to be an acknowledgement ceremony next week on Raw 30. And then the Judgment Day comes out, and they say they're bringing the tag team titles, the red strapped ones, permanently back to Monday. Then Rhea Ripley gets in the face of Solo Sikoa, and before Solo could hit Ripley, Ali flies into action to kick off their match. Again, before we get into that match, I want to talk to you guys with a super chat from John Jordan saying, cheers, fellas. Every generation of the bloodline, give us a rundown of who all it truly could be. Justin, that feels like a question for you. Who could be there to acknowledge Roman Reigns next week?
Well, I mean, look, number one, you could start with Roman Reigns and his father, Sika. You know, it would make a lot of sense if you know, they're in Philadelphia, and you know, the Samoan family has a lot of ties to the eastern and central part of Pennsylvania. So that, you know, and so that there's, you know, I mean, that would make a lot of sense if they could have Sika there, Roman's uncle, Afa. But of course, you know, again, the obvious one is that wording of all generations. Could we see an electric one? Of course, that's one that you leave as a surprise. You leave it as you leave it for the three pundits right here on this show to drum up speculation and a rumor.
Who?
Yeah,
Who?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think that wording was by accident. I'm not saying for sure that The Rock will be there, but even if it means, and this might actually get a little bit of a boo because I think people would be, especially a Philadelphia crowd, even if it meant The Rock via satellite or some type of whatever to then lead into a later on an in-person appearance, whether that be Rumble or a Raw at a later date. That might spark anger out of the crowd. But then again, every time you see The Rock, the crowd usually pops any which way. So, yeah, that was very key wording by the Usos of how they set up this this acknowledgement ceremony next week.
Yeah, Jimmy, this I feel like you could say that The Rock is coming in via satellite, and as soon as this thing starts, I feel like the crowd is still gonna go nuts for it.
No, I think they will. A little disappointed that he doesn't show up live, of course, but at the same time, here's a guy who's like very busy with a lot of stuff going on, making an appearance on Monday Night Raw. I mean, like, it just, like you said, you talk about planting seeds. This is planting a huge seed. You know what I mean? And putting a huge thought into people's minds, unless, you know, they're really putting over their dad big.
Yeah.
Well, and let me throw this out there too, because obviously, again, you're celebrating 30 years of Raw. You know, The Rock was not there for, you know, he was only actually really there in terms of in full for a select period of time from the late 90s, early 2000s. But the actual anniversary of 30 years was, I believe, last week. I think it's January 11th, if I have my dates correct. So it is interesting to note, okay, why would they have picked months, and they picked this a while ago, why would they have waited to select whatever the date is next week, January 20, whatever it is? Why would they have selected that? Why would they choose it to be the go home show to Rumble? All those things I do wonder. And going to Jimmy's point, Dwayne The Rock Johnson is extremely busy. He's got a lot of things. His schedule is booked, you know, well out in advance for all the projects and all the things that he balances. Part of me wonders if they did know, hey, we know we want to have him for Mania in LA. You obviously have to start that somewhere in earnest. Did they make an active decision to, we're going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Raw on this date and not this one, even though it's a little bit further away from the actual true date, because that's when we can get our wonderful commodity, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Just putting it out there, all things to think about.
It's from a how do you do this standpoint, it's interesting. Do you tell us The Rock is going to be active on a TV show and get those ratings and things? Do you have them be the surprise? Do you use them to sell? It's a weird, there's so many different ways it could go, but it's all good, kind of interesting. You know, it's not like, I hope they don't mess this up. It's all like, man, this could be incredible. I'm super pumped. I just hope I don't feel let down if it's not The Rock. That's the
I kind of like the fact that they're not. I like the fact that nobody spoke The Rock's name tonight,
Right.
because I remind everybody of what we got 14 months ago. Remember the Survivor Series? Not this past year, but the year prior, when it was celebrating what was that anniversary of The Rock's debut, because he made his debut in '96 Survivor Series, and then we showed all these video packages, and here's Rock moment number 3, and all. They showed all these things, and it was based around The Rock's new movie. And we never got them, and there was like the huge disappointment. So maybe less is more. Don't mention them.
Right.
Another thing that came from this segment, though, was Judgment Day, Jimmy specifically saying the red strapped titles permanently to Raw. 2 questions for you here. Does this imply that they're possibly going to start separating some of these titles again? And 2, does it kind of tip the hand that maybe Judgment Day are going to get the win?
You can make a case for either of those arguments. I mean, obviously, people are speculating going into WrestleMania, it being 2 nights. Could it be possibly Roman Reigns defending each title, one on Saturday night, one on Sunday night, that sort of thing? And why not the same thing with the tag team titles, since that's the situation there, but where one team is holding both titles. I like the idea of having a universal champion. That makes sense, because then I think it elevates, for example, the Intercontinental Championship, as we saw last week, and what they did tonight to elevate the stature of the United States Championship. They did a lot of work to do that tonight as well. So maybe we will see a division of the titles, but at the same time, I'd like to see a unification and one universal strap for the big titles, and that includes tag teams. But then, I guess with the tag team division too, why not?
It is a little trickier with the tag team division, Justin. I'll send this to you because it's a deep division. Maybe it's just because the Usos have had the titles for so long. It does start to feel like a bottleneck a little bit. I don't feel that way with the world title, but I say world title for short, because I think the official name now is the Universal, like undisputed WWE something. But for some reason, it doesn't feel like it's as backed up at that division. But the tag team title does feel a little log jammed at this point. What say you about the tag titles and then possibly being split here?
I do feel it's gotten a little bit jammed up, but only recently, and only because I feel like that they've started to do a good job just reestablishing teams. You know, whether that be the Viking Raiders, whether that be Alpha Academy, whether that be having Dom and Priest together. I just feel like we just have more, so it does feel like, okay, we could afford to have these titles split, and then they would be able. There's enough depth on each show to keep it going. Whereas again, this time last year, I don't think you could say that. I think it was, I don't know, let's keep them all on one team because we don't have enough to spread and fill 2 shows worth of 2 separate tag team title storylines going. We don't have enough for that, but now they do.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you said earlier with Triple H being in charge. Triple H is high on tag teams, and there are reports out there, people saying that Vince was not so much a tag team on board with tag teams. Yes, he understood that they needed to be there, but Triple H, I think, has been focusing a lot of more attention on the tag team division.
Yeah, and I think another change with Triple H too has been, one of the most noticeable things immediately when Triple H took over the second part of the summer was, and I think this holds true since then, we have not had any back-to-back week of Raw where it has been unexplained rematch, where it's like we just saw it last week. He has done a very good job of keeping things fresh and still staying linear, having if 2 groups or whatever are feuding, but he's managed to keep it fresh. Whereas, in the last couple of years, especially under Vince, we would get unannounced best of 7s essentially between 2 people. And so I think what that's allowed to have happen is that in the Vince era of the last few years, he relied on a lot of, 6-mans and 8-mans and things to throw people together, this and that. So it really diluted the art of what makes a good multi-man, a good tag match or a good 6-man match. Now that we've gotten away from that, and that's not been a crutch that we're just leaning on to fill time, again, it's allowed the tag division to develop again and bring back the art of a tag team match, because tag team wrestling can be a beautiful thing when it's done right. It really can. And I've seen some of the best, in person, and I've been part of those crowds. It feels so great. And obviously Jimmy's been the 5th man in the ring for some of those. It's a beautiful thing if it's done right. But it starts with, you got to have teams that people care about and know about first. And then they've gotten back to that point.
And you have to have teams that fans want one team to see, one team win and one team get their butts kicked too.
But it's I mean, just even I would say like I was a huge fan of Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Adam Page when they had their rivalry building, and even if you go back to those old Dudley Boys, APAs, Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, like the tag team was like the coolest part of the show for lots of those shows. So absolutely there. I did want to give a quick shout out to in this segment. What I loved is the Usos are so good at talking at the same time, like, and not stepping on each other, but like no dead space between them going. Like obviously they're brothers, so they know each other pretty well, but I think it goes a little unappreciated just how well they're able to go back and forth on the microphone with each other without any hesitation, talking over, stuttering, anything. It's just seamless. It's so cool.
I'm just glad that if we would have left this segment between them and Dom and there was no mention of the Uso Penitentiary, I was going to be pissed. But I'm glad they pulled out the Uso Penitentiary. It's like, that's a layup right now.
Yes. So, Dom is so good, man. He cracks me up so much. And then, what were you going to say, Jimmy?
No, just every week he never ceases to impress me. It's just it almost, he's embracing it more and more each week, and I hate to say it this way because he's a heel, but I'm falling in love with this character. It's just too much.
He's so good.
And then Corey Graves is like, watch it, Kevin Patrick. He'll trade you for a honey bun, like commissary trade off of in prison life.
It's just so well done. Just this, I really love that opening segment. John Jordan, by the way, says, "Come on, LaBar." Obviously, I was talking about Nia Jax.
Yes. Obviously.
Come on.
Sure.
That's great though. Like Jack said, we need all the engagement, the better. Peek behind the curtain. A lot of exciting things happen on the podcast. We're not going anywhere, but a lot of exciting things. The more engagement you guys can do, comments, reviews, especially reviews. The more you guys can do that is going to help a lot of things that this podcast is trying to cook up right now. So if you like doing this, just take 10 seconds and just leave a nice comment or just click 5 stars or something. Please do it.
Yeah, even if you are part of the YouTube now, hop over to Apple Podcasts and just throw in one of those reviews. It actually does really mean a lot. So, Ali versus Solo happened. We got a mid-match digital exclusive, which feels like it's not a digital exclusive if they're showing it on Raw, but I digress. Ali says he's gonna cause some problems, but still gets beat up by Solo. Kevin Owens comes out and basically clears house and beats everybody up until Pierce comes out and clears everyone out. Justin, we know that, I mean, we don't know, but Roman Reigns is going to retain at Royal Rumble. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty safe bet. But as WWE, I feel like has done just about as good of a job of making Kevin Owens seem like a threat as they could, right?
I agree. And the reaction that KO got at the end of this segment, I mean, he's out there. I can't help it. He does the stunner, and of course he fought Austin at Mania last year. It gives me those feelings of when a one-man wrecking crew is there, but the crowd is behind it. And just the sight of officials and referees restraining him just, gets the crowd so amped up, like, no, let him go. Let me see. And that's where we were at. He's up on the commentary table. He's got these 3 guys running off. You're right. I don't see him taking he's not beating Roman Reigns straight up at Rumble, but you believe in him. He is, he's the top babyface, or he's one of the top babyfaces, of course, for Raw. So yeah, they've done a great job with him. Solo Sikoa, since he's been called up, they have done right by him and his presentation and his protection of him. I just, Mustafa Ali, he's still, this has been one of the constants from the Vince in charge, Triple H in charge. He comes on screen, he's got no credibility with me. I do not give him a fighting chance right now. And that's nothing against his ability in the ring, belt to belt, but the way he has been booked, he is just a guy who's just kind of whining. You saw the segment later with Dolph Ziggler. He's just kind of whining and complaining, but he's not getting anything done. So.
Yeah, Jimmy, I was going to ask you about Ali. He took the loss today. He didn't necessarily. He had like one spot where it looked like he might have had a chance. I think it was a diving DDT. But do you think these? I made fun of the digital exclusive name, but do you think it's a good idea to at least give him some kind of mic time, even if it's while he's getting beat up in the ring, to try to give us some personality to him?
It couldn't hurt, that's for sure, because like Justin said, he's not drawing the audience in. They're not getting invested in him. They're not believing in him. When I see him in the ring, especially tonight against Solo, there was, did anybody think he had a chance of beating Solo in that match tonight? Nobody did. Nobody bought in. They haven't bought into this character. Now maybe there's something they could do and kind of turn him into one of those totally annoying guys where you just want to see him get his butt kicked and get the proper reaction a heel should get. Maybe that's the idea at the end of the day, because look at it this way. When he does finally get that win, I feel sorry for the guy he gets to win over. I always say I should be able to, like, how would you explain a wrestler to someone who doesn't watch wrestling? How would you describe them? And I don't really have anything I would say about Ali, except that he seems to complain a lot, which isn't something that I'm supposed to like. And he presents himself as a good guy. So I don't know.
It's still better than Retribution, right?
Right. That's very true.
That's the barometer. He shows up each week. They go to the production meeting. He finds out what's going to happen. He gets the hand that he's dealt, and it's always somebody's job. I don't know if it's Bruce Pritchard or somebody's job to walk up. You're on Ali duty this week. Somebody's going to walk up and you got to pat him on the shoulder and go, well, it's still better than Retribution. Make the best of it, kid, and then walk off.
Right. Yeah. They just keep the masks of one of them. And anytime he starts to get mad, he's like, remember this? Okay. Yeah, this isn't too bad, actually.
Right.
We get to the most newsworthy part of the show, I believe, and that is Cody Rhodes, and they're going through his rehab, and he says he's coming back, and that took me by surprise. That I almost wasn't even paying attention because they've showed a few of these. I'm like, okay, he's getting back, whatever. I've seen this. He's like, and I'm coming back. I was like, holy cow! I didn't expect that, Jimmy. I think this is the question that will lead the debates here. Is it the right move to announce that he's coming back?
In this case, you can make an argument making it a surprise would have been cool, but if you've got other surprises, how many surprises can you have in one Royal Rumble match that'll get the same reaction? Cody, as we've seen in the videos that they've been presenting in his recovery, have been tremendous. And if you can say one positive thing about WWE production is when they do these videos, they do them right. And they've been doing right by Cody because he looks like $1 million right now in his recovery, and people are anxious to see him come back. So announcing when he's going to come back is a good move at this point. Sometimes it's better to leave it at people speculating and make it a surprise. But in this instance, I think it's a good move because, like I said, right now Cody has money, and you make money by telling people where that money's going to be.
Well, and Justin, we have a super chat that's been sitting here. And one, I want to thank you so much for being patient. I was waiting for this moment. Justin, think The Rock is going to be the Rumble surprise now?
Well, I mean, he could be. And again, I guess it depends on what we see next week at Raw, based on a conversation earlier. But I think whether it's The Rock or whether it's other surprises, obviously there's nobody else that's of the stature of The Rock, but even if we get some one-off returns and what have you, the Rumble's going to have its element of surprise, right? The Rumble sells itself just by that. I completely agree with them advertising Cody. A couple things here. First off, when Cody got injured at the start in early June, the timetable they gave us, everybody, all of us said, oh, that pretty much lines up to Rumble, right? So it's like, even going into Rumble, even without these vignettes, I think there already would have been this kind of belief you're going to see him. So the fact that you are going to see him, that he is physically going to be able to do it, you might as well capitalize on that to help any final live ticket sales and to help any at-home viewing. Because look, they lost out the last 6 months of having him. They lost out of having a Cody Rhodes, their fresh, or their returning hot commodity whose stock was higher coming back than it was when he left. They lost out on having him for Money in the Bank, for SummerSlam, for Clash at the Castle, for Survivor Series, so start cashing in on his name again. So advertise that he's going to be there. I think it's absolutely the right way to go, and I don't think it's going to harm his pop in any bit. He's still going to get a huge reaction, 1 through 30, whichever number he comes in at. So,
we got night one, adrenaline in my soul, 30 Cody Rhodes. I can't make it go with the song, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it's, I don't think anyone's happy when someone gets hurt, but it kind of is like perfect time. Like, he comes in, big debut, great run with Seth Rollins, one of the greatest, like, I guess before you take a break kind of matches with Hell in a Cell, to come right back in at Royal Rumble. Like, what a almost perfect way that could have happened, if that makes sense, to find the silver lining.
No, it absolutely does. Sorry, Justin, I didn't mean to jump in there, but it does. It makes perfect sense. And you like we said, you talk about surprises and all that sort of thing, but at the end of the day, you got to think business, and this business is about money. And like I said, and like we said, Cody is money right now. He's the guy. And I know there's some questions out there. Should he come in at number 1? Should he come in at number 30? What is the best spot for him? As long as he's in the match, it really doesn't matter what number he comes in. I mean, I get the logic. Put him in at number 1 and have him go through everybody and be the last man standing and that sort of thing. That does kind of make sense, but at the same time, he's just coming off an injury.
But they push his cardio to the limit there.
Yeah, in his return match, a little bit much, but having him at 30 doesn't help him either. He's got to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, while we're at it, let's just give him an Iron Man match before the Rumble too.
Yeah.
Like, just for something else.
Yeah. But Jack, to your point though, you're right. This does kind of, you don't want to see injuries, but in a weird way, he got to be back for a couple months last spring, enough time to get the WWE audience back behind him. For anybody who might have forgot about him, back behind him, and then he fought that Hell in a Cell match with that gruesome injury. And so then he's down. So kind of gives that courageous kind of feel if he dies on the sword type of thing. And then he gets to come back at Rumble. And remember, when the news broke last year, early 2022, that, oh my God, Cody Rhodes is done with AEW, which caught everybody off guard. It was in February. It was only a few weeks after last year's Rumble. And I remember turning to somebody and saying, damn, if he could have gotten out a little bit earlier, what a Rumble surprise he really would have been. And so you kind of get to cash in on again, having him be like, he's going to be there, but now we get to all again speculate. Is he the first one? Is he the last one? Where does he come in at? It is. I think this is the right way to play this. And again, I think you got to figure he's got to be in the top 2, right, of favorites to win this, or top 3. I mean, you look at him, you're looking at,
I mean, of people who are
Rock appearance,
of people who aren't surprised not signed wrestlers right now, I would say he has to be the favorite, unless you're looking at like you said, like The Rock or something who's not, on the roster. I'd have to think he's the favorite, and he could be the most obvious favorite. And I think people will still be excited if he wins, which is very rare in pro wrestling to have the obvious one win and everyone be happy. But I think they would absolutely be happy.
It's because everybody wants to see it.
Tommy O in the chat says, quick side question. When is Pat McAfee coming back? College football is over. Miss him on SmackDown. Keep up the great work, Triple J's. Thank you, Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
This feels like a Justin LaBar question. Do you know, do you have any news on Pat McAfee and him coming back, or?
I don't know an exact date, but I would, I feel pretty confident in saying WWE will not go this WrestleMania season without a Pat McAfee involvement. So I think it's just a matter of picking the exact date, but he has proven his worth both on the commentary desk and his ability to deliver. In his novelty matches when he has them. So I think we will be seeing him sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I wonder if they're waiting for NFL to get over, because I'm sure the NFL is going to want to chat with him too, and do things while Super Bowl is still going on. But that is speculation. I have no idea. Cedric and Shelton get back together to take on the Street Profits, and the Street Profits win, which I don't think surprises anyone. But Jimmy, it feels like they're trying to hint at the Hurt Business. Is this already just a bad start for this team?
I didn't like the way it ended. Let's put it that way. It should have been a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I thought the match was good. And we did get a lot of offense in from Shelton and Cedric, but at the same time, I think they needed to win more than the Street Profits at this particular junction. And because they are technically a heel tag team being associated with MVP, there was a way to do it without harming any credibility with the Street Profits. The heels outmaneuver, instead of the typical ref distraction thing that didn't work out for him. But anyways, I just think this would have been a perfect opportunity to elevate a new team.
I feel like the Street Profits are at a point where they could lose 3 in a row and they're the Street Profits. They're still, they're golden. But yeah, Justin, I feel like they're hinting at this team getting back together, but they already made them seem kind of like idiots. They cheated and they still lost. Oh, I think you're muted.
Oh. Yes, I was. No, I agree. Hindsight is 2020. We have the ability to look back now a couple hours later, and maybe on paper it made sense. And then, especially because we're going to see again MVP a little bit later in the night and such. But by the way this was executed, it was just fumbly. Like, MVP missed. He was a little late, so he didn't get to pull Cedric away quite as quick, and then the whole thing was just kind of fumbly and. Yeah, it to you, like you said, Jack, it's like trying to make me think this is important to get this group back together, but they're already getting L's and it's not working out. So I agree. With what Jimmy said. We have plenty of tag teams. They've done a good job replenishing the tag team division. Put somebody else in this particular match. Again, that's the hindsight. That's me having the ability to look back on paper. I can see what they're maybe trying to do, but yeah, this did not come off well for the Hurt Business. Street Profits look great, but both of them, Montez and Dawkins, just so athletic. It's amazing to do that front flip spot over the top rope, land on your feet, hit your mark, hit your guys, protect them still, then protect you, land on your feet. They make it look so easy, and it's not that easy. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. They Street Profits are one of the teams that makes it feel like there's a log jam at the top. Like how they're not champs right now, I don't know. But a quick comment from Terry Allen Jr. I wanted to bring in. Royal Rumble tumblers should return for fun. I like the tumbler. We're talking about the thing where they turn the crank and like the balls roll.
Yeah. That would be. I like that. That was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Even if it's totally rigged, it's still fun. I don't care.
Yeah. I miss the old fashioned Rumble intros. I'm talking like 91, 92, Vince's gravelly voiceover, and we show like 20 of the guys and we show their headshots of who's going to be in the Rumble, Yeah. Go back and watch the 90s. If anybody wants any reference, go on to Peacock, punch in the 1992 Royal Rumble. Watch the opening. It's just going to be, slides and pictures of the name. Nothing fancy, nothing like today's graphics. And it's Vince just giving, and he's got different inflection for the Undertaker, IRS, Sid, Justin. That's what I want. If Vince wants to get back involved, that's his task. Do the voiceover for the Rumble intro, Vince.
That would be fantastic. Those are fun. I wish WWE would lead into the history a little bit more sometimes with that kind of stuff. Just very simple stuff like that.
Well, speaking of that, Jack, have you noticed? Both of you noticed? We have one more Raw to go. We have not. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have not gotten the Rumble by the numbers video. We have not gotten this person set the number of eliminations. This person has the quickest. We have not got the by the numbers thing.
That's true.
That's very true.
I love Rumble by the numbers, by the way. So fun. It's I don't know why. I could see it. I can't wait for it. I hope they do it again. Maybe they've they're redoing it, making it look. I don't know. We got a segment here. Becky Lynch comes from the crowd and calls out Bayley, and Bayley comes out and they argue about NXT in 2015 before Becky says she was never supposed to be here and Bayley is the reason Bayley isn't where she wants to be. Next week, they're going to have a steel cage match. Jimmy Korderas, this is on paper, I feel like just a awesome setup to a promo, but the whole thing just came flat to me. What was your thought?
I thought for some reason, to me, it felt like Becky was too much playing wrestling promo, if that makes sense. You know, Bayley was a little better in her presentation, I think, in the promo segment part, but I think Becky came off like time to cut a wrestling promo kind of thing. And that's how I think maybe that's what you might have felt. I don't know if that's exactly how you felt. I like the fact that they're building up to a big match next week. That's very meaningful for their 30th anniversary Raw. But at the same time, you know, it just felt a little cliched, her presentation. Yeah. Let's put it that way. You know, coming through the crowd, making the reference to the Cincinnati Bengals and blah, blah, blah. You know, just, too cliche for lack of a better term.
I feel like the crowd was kind of dead for this segment too, which kind of hurt it. And Justin, I want to know your thoughts. I love long-term storytelling. I love references, but there's a part of me that's like, are we really arguing about something that happened 8 years ago on this show right now?
Yeah. There's a lot missing here. And I agree with Jimmy. They're back to having Becky as a face, which I agree with, because for a while there, when they had her as a heel, it was like this feels like we're swimming against the current. Nobody wants this. Nobody believes her as the heel. She's a good babyface, but yet she's back on the babyface side of the fence, and like Jimmy said, they're trying really hard, having her come out through the crowd and making the local sports reference and. I have friends. I got an arena full of friends. Just really like, I don't know how we get back to where she once was when it was so organic. And I know that the very meaning of, I know it's hard to recreate something that's organic by nature, but it does feel like they're trying, but they're missing some marks. And then on the flip side, I never thought that I'd buy into a heel Bayley. Bayley, when she was in NXT, I thought she has the potential to be like the best version of a women's John Cena in terms of the hugging and the merchandise and the face. I actually like heel Bayley, but I don't buy into her with this group, with the two others, and so that kind of leaves me falling flat. So there's a lot. I like Jimmy said, I like that we're building to a match. Here's two women who have name value, so put them on this big anniversary show, put them in a gimmick match of a cage. That's all cool, but yeah, the execution of the segment overall, not my favorite, and there's just a lot of things missing, and I'm not really sure. I don't have the answer. If I was on the writing team tomorrow, I don't necessarily know if I have the answer of how we get Becky back to being what she was when she became the man. I don't know, but I hope they can figure it out, because it does feel flat, or flat. We'll just go flat.
I guess also from because I'm supposed to be rooting for Becky, I'm supposed to be on her side. It also felt like she was a little insincere in this promo. Like, again, going all the way back to 2015, which sounds like I'm being silly, but at the same time, there's someone who is almost 30 right now that was in high school when this that was happening, they're arguing about. But also she's saying you haven't done anything since then. And I'm thinking Bayley's been multiple-time champion. She's won all sorts of stuff, was carrying the WWE through the pandemic. What are you talking about? She hasn't done anything since then. That's not... Like if a heel says that, I'm like, oh, they're being such jerk. Just disregard. Right. You can't say Bayley hasn't done anything for the past 8 years. That's just a little. I don't know. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but to me, it just this segment just, and again, maybe it's because the crowd just really wasn't into it the whole time. It didn't feel like, but I just wasn't. It just, like I said, it just felt flat to me.
You didn't feel a connection, and that's the important thing, and that's what they look for, especially when you're doing a talking segment, a promo segment to build up to a big match next week. You want to get people invested and drawn in, and you didn't get drawn in, other than the fact that they mentioned, steel cage match next week.
Right,
and Jack, you're normally able to find the positivity in a lot of things. So if you're saying this, that's the barometer of. It fell flat.
It did. Yeah. It just, I don't know. Maybe it's everything you guys said. And I've liked Becky since she's come back as being a face. Like I've enjoyed it. This one just felt I didn't get it.
She didn't have that edgy feel to her tonight.
Yeah, I think what made Becky great, the face breaker moment when she had her broken nose standing in the crowd after attacking Ronda Rousey. I think there was just that it felt different. You know, Justin, you talked about how Bayley was like John Cena. I think it felt like when she was really hot with the crowd and everything was when she was more like a Stone Cold, where now it feels like she's being more of a John Cena, if that makes sense. Like, I think I want someone who's more, I'm going to go beat you up and get my nose bloody, but still knock you out, as opposed to, this is the best town I've ever been in. You know? Yeah. I don't know. Someone I do like, though, a lot. Elias is backstage, and he says he wants in the Rumble, but MVP says he's going to face the man who's going to win the Rumble. Turns out it's Omos. They have a match, shenanigans outside, and Omos gets a pretty easy win. And Justin, that seems like the right thing to do when you have a giant getting ready for the Royal Rumble.
It is. As much as I love my guy Elias, it is. You're right, because Omos, of course, will have the patented spot if he'll get in the Rumble, and will he challenge for a record of eliminating the most guys? We'll see, but of course, he'll be a threat for at least a segment in the match, and then of course, I do imagine that it'll take every other person that's in the ring at that current time to get him out. That's the giant spot that you do, but nonetheless, you got to heat that giant up before Rumble. And so, yeah, him getting a victory against while Elias certainly, I wish overall in totality has been booked. I wish was booked better in his wins and losses. He still is Elias. He still has name value. He's been on the roster for however many years now. He's had segments with a lot of legends. So he still is. It's credible for Omos to beat him, which is what you're looking for as Omos goes into the 30-man Rumble match.
Yeah, Jimmy. I am a big Elias fan. I wish he had a lot more wins as well. And this is kind of a curse. He is one of those guys that can eat losses and still be entertaining. So it's very easy, I can imagine, to say, let's have him take the L tonight.
Yeah, and because he has that gimmick that people resonate to, all you have to do is, have that walk with Elias and have him come out and do a promo segment in the ring, sitting on his stool with his guitar, ready to sing a song or whatever. For him, it's, I don't want to say easy, but there is a better path to build him back up.
Right.
I don't want to say the word easy because it makes it sound like, it's just do it like this. There is a way to get him back up, and a lot of it has to do with, like Justin said, is the fact that people are behind him. They're invested in him. They like to see him. They like to hear him. They like him in matches. So to get him back to a level where he's challenging for a championship or whatever it is, it can be done with him.
Yeah. We have some trash talk between Judgment Day and Alpha Academy before they end up having a tag team matchup. And shock and surprise, it's a really good one. Seems like every Alpha Academy match is good. Every Judgment Day match seems to be good. So why wouldn't this one be good as well? Justin, both teams just continue to get better and better. And I feel like we say it every week, and I know it's repetitive, but I feel like that's also super impressive. Both these teams, I love.
No, I agree. And I'm also impressed with the way in the last couple of weeks Alpha Academy appears to have transitioned from the heel side of the yard to the face side of the yard. But it didn't take they didn't have to do it. They didn't have to make one moment. It wasn't like there's this big moment where all of a sudden they, stood tall with the faces. They've just kind of gradually made it happen, but it's felt natural. It's felt like the crowds wanted to be behind them. Yeah, and that's important. I mean, there's times to have your big heroic face turn, where you make a big you do something big in a moment of peril. And but there's also times where Alpha Academy, if you don't have that, but that the crowd still would like to cheer them. Okay, how can we make that happen as quickly but as naturally as possible? And they've seemed to have done that. And so I like that. I like that because, it's one of those things, and this happens all the time. Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, so many guys in the history, Eddie Guerrero, it starts out being a good heel act, but eventually the quality of the heel act sometimes gets so good that people just want to cheer it. And so now you have the task of, well, we can't let you lose that catchphrase, or we can't let you lose that whatever, but we got to frame it to where you're now not. So now Chad Gable's not telling the audience to shoosh. He's telling the Judgment Day to shoosh. And it's little things. And it sounds so easy, but it's not as easy as it sounds. And they've done it really well. And I like this a lot.
Yeah, to Justin's point, Jimmy, there were times when during this matchup, I felt myself sort of, I didn't jump up off my chair, cheer, but you felt that little internal like popping, I guess, for Alpha Academy, where you're like, you got it. Come on, let's go. Like you're kind of like cheering for him and rooting for him. And I was watching this, especially when I think Gable like hit the diving headbutt and then went into, I think an ankle lock or something. I was like, let's go. I was pumped for them. And it was, again, I mean, I'm kind of overacting now for the course of the show, but like, there's that little bit of that feeling in me that was like, let's go, you guys. I don't know how they did it, but I want them to win. I'm cheering for them.
Yeah, and the crowd felt it tonight too, because you could hear it in them, especially when Otis got that hot tag. The crowd popped huge for that. And you talk about transitioning over to a babyface side because, the old guy get off my lawn kind of thing. I'm very traditional when it comes to heels and baby faces, and we're seeing a lot more matches coming down that where you're thinking to yourself, okay, they're kind of both heelish or they're kind of both baby faces. Who do I cheer for? Who do I boo? In this match, the crowd decided. And when I watch someone like, a little bit off topic here, but when I watch someone like a Chad Gable in there and the way he is connecting with the audience in that kind of pseudo comedic kind of timing, he so much reminds me of a Kurt Angle when he transitioned into that. I almost want to see down the road where Kurt Angle shows up one day, who knows where, and just says to him, you know what, kid, you got a lot of potential. I see something in you. You know what I see in you? Me. So stick with me. I will mentor you and become his mentor, so to speak. Can you imagine these segments those two could put on together?
Oh, absolutely. They'd be great.
Training montages.
That'd be so great.
And
with Otis with them trying to like keep up and be just not being able to keep up.
And then when you want to relax, you just pull out a little ukulele and Jimmy Crackcorn, and I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, just there could be some gold there.
There was some comedic gold though that I got to mention, and that was when Rhea Ripley got in Chad Gable's face, and Dom says, "I've been in the yard pumping iron all day. I might not be able to hold her back." Just cracked me up. So
Dom is just killing it right now. Just killing it.
I don't know how they all keep straight faces. Like when he was in the ring with the Usos, I was like, how do they not just lose it? I could not look someone in the eye and say that with a straight face and not just lose it. It's fantastic. We got Io Sky versus Michin. Michin comes out with Candice LeRae, shenanigans on the outside. Michin gets the win, and we get a kerfuffle post match. Justin, you're shaking your head. Let's hear it.
The ladies all tried their best. They tried. This crowd could not give a damn. And part of that is on people above them. Part of that's on the crowd doesn't have a reason to care. They don't know, whether you cite name change. The graphic says Michin, but they're calling her Michin, Mia Yim. So maybe there's things like that. And that might seem like I'm being nitpicky, but folks, that stuff goes a long way. Of people trying to, if you don't know what to call a person, how are you supposed to connect? That's kind of like things like that. I'm not trying to pick on Io Sky or Dakota Kai, but as I said earlier, with my Bayley thing, with Bayley out there, I just don't think there was a buzz for a week or two, and they came back in the summer. It was like the first returns under the Triple H era, right? And so there's kind of a little bit of a buzz. Oh, Triple H is bringing back people, but I feel like it's kind of fallen flat. I know they're the women's tag champs, but I just don't feel like anybody cares or knows how to care or why to care. And I watched this match. It was, and the crowd's kind of dead. They don't care. And then there was a point where Io had Mia Yim in a submission hold, And the crowd, the one bit of care, they started a little bit of rallying clap for Mia Yim to essentially hawk up.
Mm-hmm.
And just as they started it, she rolled and countered it into a 1-2, a pinfall, and they lost the crowd again. And it was like in that moment, I was like, no, just hold it. They're starting to feel for you.
Mm-hmm.
Work off that. The whole thing, just again, I hate to sound so negative because the girls are out there trying and working. They're putting the bodies out there, but the crowd tells you what you need to know, and the crowd did not care. The biggest reaction that was in this whole segment was when the match was over.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the next.
Yep.
Well,
that's a problem.
And Jimmy, I said something earlier. I think it applies to this one. Is tell me if you're not a wrestling fan, tell me who Michin and Candice LeRae are. You could say a lot about that with Dakota Kai and Io Sky thing as well, but at the very least, you can say Bayley is like a Karen, and they're her friends. So it's not great, but you can say that. But I feel like tell me about Michin if I've never watched wrestling before.
I wish I could. I wish I could explain it to a wrestling fan to make them want to care. I could tell. Look, she's very good in the ring. She's very talented. She has the ability to put on good matches. So, but tell me about her.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where there's no connection. And like Justin said, the crowd told you everything you needed to know tonight. And I have it written down here in capital letters, crowd quiet, because they didn't give a flying fadoo.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I'm not even blaming her in this case. I think she came back. She was like a part of the OC, but she wasn't a part of the OC. Now she's completely separated from the OC. And same thing kind of happened to Candice LeRae, where she was there, then she was with Johnny, now she's not with Johnny, and there's this I don't really know who they are at this point, so it's hard for me to really care because I don't know who they are. We'll move on. The Bianca Belair segments next. I could tell someone who never watches wrestling, Bianca Belair is a super athlete who is wildly positive and friendly and happy, and she says she's the EST, the best, the baddest, whatever. I can explain that to someone pretty easily and they'll get it. Alexa Bliss, I can say, she's a wrestler, but she's also got this inner demon dealing with a person like Bray Wyatt, who is giving her these dark thoughts and making her do things she wouldn't want to do. I can explain these things, but I don't know. Michin is someone I'm not sure if I'm supposed to call Mia Yim. I don't know how I would explain anything beyond that. So
the Jack, to what you said though, to be fair, everything you just said about Michin, Mia Yim, if she's with the OC, she's not, whatever. Candice, she's with Johnny, she's not. Now part of that's because I guess Johnny might be a little bit banged up or whatever, but a lot of that is very reminiscent. So I want to call a duck a duck. If I'm going to be critical on Wednesday, I'll be critical on Monday. A lot of that is what I'm critical about in AEW, which is inconsistency. The 1 minute Mia Yim is with the OC, but now she's not. And what do we call her? Oh, well, they probably explain Michin and what Michin means in relation to Mia Yim. They probably explained it on this digital extra, but I didn't watch the digital extra, so I don't know. Well, I'm not watching this. Dynamite does it all the time, or AEW does it all the time with Dark and all the other shows. There's just an inconsistency of not knowing. And then Candice LeRae, she's back. She's a name. She was popular at one time here. She's got her hair a different color as everybody else. I'm supposed to care, but I don't because I don't. There is a problem there. That there is a. I think maybe we brought too many ladies back too quickly and did not have enough time and real estate to invest in each of them to educate the crowd as to why they matter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's and for anyone, I was a fan of them on NXT. I know who they are as a fan. I'm just saying, so I'm not discouraging them. I'm just saying, I think this is why a segment like this falls flat. Is if you don't know, you're kind of wondering. But I mentioned two people, Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss, and basically Bianca's glad to be back. Alexa Bliss comes out. They say they're going to have a title match at the Royal Rumble. They fight, and right before Bianca Belair murders Alexa Bliss. Uncle Howdy shows up and Alexa Bliss DDTs her. We're at a place before their match where I get that stuff like this happens, so I'm not too bummed out about it. But Jimmy, I said it before, I said again, I'm kind of over Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt just sort of popping up and not doing anything.
Yeah, but that's the whole idea now. They're trying to get you to think Uncle Howdy, is it Bray Wyatt? Is it not Bray? Uncle Howdy showed up and took out Bray Wyatt the other week, so what is going on here? Who is Uncle Howdy at? That's the whole thing. And I think in this situation, when you should be focusing on Alexa Bliss and Bianca BelAir, people are more interested in who is Uncle Howdy.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking away from the actual women's title match, because now we're thinking, oh, they're going to face each other, but will Uncle Howdy have a hand in getting involved in this? So, there was an opportunity here to elevate again the women's championship and make Alexa Bliss. You can still do the Alexa Bliss being haunted by these demons, and will we see that come out? But by presenting Uncle Howdy physically in the shadows, right, in the smoke, still that's what people are more interested in.
Yeah, Justin, is it possible? I'm a huge Bianca BelAir fan. Maybe I just don't like anyone DDTing my favorite.
No, I'm a huge Bianca fan as well. It's funny. I'm torn because I'm part of me is on Jimmy's side of this, where you are taking away from what shouldn't matter here. But I also appreciate the attempt at a different presentation. It wasn't just Uncle Howdy again entranceway. They did it in this this corridor there in the building and the crowd. Also, I guess going back to the top of the show here, where we're debating is Triple H going to stay in charge or is Vince going to? It's kind of like we got to keep Vince away from the creative, so I can see the end of this horror movie. Whatever horror movie Triple H and Bray Wyatt have agreed to that involves an Uncle Howdy, and he's took out Bray, and Bray's got a Mountain Dew sponsored lights out match against LA Knight, and I got to figure out how is Mountain Dew going to be like in Signs. It was a glass of water. That's how they all survived the aliens in the movie Signs.
Right.
Mountain Dew is going to be the key. So I got to see that, and I got to find out the how the dots connect with Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt, and Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt, Alexa Bliss. So Vince, just keep yourself on ice until February at least, so I can at least get to the Rumble and find out how this horror story is supposed to happen. Let me see my M. Night Shyamalan Levesque movie. Don't screw with me until then.
Well, you know how it's going to happen, Justin. I realized it now. I'm surprised no one else has figured it out. Uncle Howdy's going to come out, going to take off the mask, and it's going to be Vince McMahon saying, "It was me all along, Bray."
Oh my God.
Oh, I hope he doesn't see this.
Don't speak. Oh my God. Don't speak things into existence. Vince, look away. Jack was joking.
Vince like, that's a good idea.
Goddamn, pal.
Trips.
Jack.
Here's what we're doing.
Jack has been named to the writing team. Just pitch Vince goes over. It's just
I'm back, and I'm Uncle Howdy.
Now I need you to join a club of mine. Takes off his pants and does the kiss my ass club again.
Oh my goodness.
We get the Akira Tozawa wants in the Rumble, and he wants to have a match, and Adam Pearce gives him one against Bronson Reed. Of course, the story here is Bronson Reed. Of course, Bronson Reed looks nice and strong. Jimmy, I feel like the crowd was really starting to get behind Akira, though.
Yeah, again, here's a young guy who, was lost in that 24/7 thing for how long, but people gravitated towards him. They found him entertaining. They found him fun. And tonight was an opportunity to at least get him some TV time. But he fell victim to the next guy that they're bringing up, the next big dude in Bronson Reed. And I guess, there's a lot of guys you could have picked to give him a credible win against. I didn't have to be Tozawa, but at the same time, hey, Yeah, you kind of have a sympathy for Tozawa as well after eating that big hog splash. Or sorry, I mean frog splash.
Hog splash.
And I think, Jimmy, to that point, I agree with you, because part of me is wondering, people kind of like Tozawa. Why would I think Tozawa is going to try for another chance next week, and he will get a second chance. I think tonight was partly let's put over Bronson Reed, but let's also get an obstacle for Tozawa. I think he will try next week, and maybe with the help of a legend, even he can get his help.
Like,
but
okay,
indeed.
Indeed.
I like this whole thing. I liked because of that potential with Tozawa, but also, Bronson Reed. We talked earlier. I was just critiquing about how Yim and Sky didn't have the crowd. Bronson Reed is back. He's relatively unknown, new to this Raw audience. The chops he leveled got that ooh and ah in the crowd. Him going to the top rope got people up on their feet to see what this guy, so he got the people invested. And again, I'm not trying to pick on the girls, but I'm just pointing out he's in the same kind of situation of, if you're an NXT diehard, you know who he is. If not, you're learning him for the first time. I thought he really made the most of this. So good on him. And I love guys of his size that move the way he does. I know it's an inspiration to him, and I think the same. He reminds me of Bam Bam Bigelow. He reminds me of Vader type, more Bam Bam. And it's pretty impressive to see a guy like that goes to the top rope and can do the things that he does. So I liked a lot of this. And again, I walked away saying Tozawa's going to get another chance. He's gonna camp outside Adam Pearce's door all week long. He's going to get himself another opportunity next week. I'm watching for that.
I mean, I'm not saying he should beat Roman Reigns or anything, but if he had a sneaky little fun underdog run, I'd be totally there for it. I think I wonder with Bronson Reed, if one of the reasons he was able to connect so well tonight is because he went to NXT, had to make himself known in NXT, left NXT, had to go and make himself known again in like New Japan is where he was, I think, doing most of his stuff after he left WWE. And so now he's back and he's done it kind of a couple times in a very short period of time. I wonder if he's just sort of like, I know now what I have to do day one to get people to know who I am. And maybe that helped him sort of understand that. I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
I don't know. And Jimmy, I'd love your thoughts for your veteran experience here. Here's something else I noticed with Bronson Reed. Go back and if you DVR the show, go back and watch this. When he hits his tsunami splash off the top, there's like 8 cameras that do Raw live. It was the camera that, if you're watching as a viewer, if you're watching the ring, it's the camera that's over to your right. It's a ringside cameraman that's in front of the commentary desk. They cut to that camera for his pinfall, the 1, 2, 3. Well, when they cut to it, on the cameras there's a red light. It's called a tally light. So if you're really aware of a performer, if all the things you're doing while you're trying to protect yourself, protect your opponent, blah, 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 if you can actually look and see where the red light is, that's really good on you. He must have caught that they took that camera because he splashed, looked into that camera, must have saw the red light, and he stared down that camera like the camera owed him money. And he just burned a hole in it, and then to the director's credit, of course, they stayed with that camera, and he just burned a hole and he started to mouth and talk to that camera. Just a little thing like that was huge. Whereas a lot of times they could be at one of the hard cameras that are positioned in the lower bowl of the arena, and you don't realize it. My whole point is I feel like this guy has got a great awareness of what he's doing, and I'm sure he learned some things in NXT. I'm sure he's picked things up in New Japan, whatever. But he's there. He's back now, and I think he's playing with his A game, because just a little thing like that, when you made an impactful splash, crowd reacts, commentary selling their ass off for you, and you're staring at the viewer like that. It's a bow on top of the entire presentation, the entire present.
Yeah, the knowing where the camera is one of the unsung things about TV pro wrestling that I think a lot of people, when they watch like independent shows, like this guy's great, that sometimes I don't think they realize is a difference of knowing where the camera is versus you can look any which way and you're okay.
That's one of the biggest things we learned, even as referees. Working TV and working house shows are completely two different things, because you're working to the TV audience. And, a lot of the guys say, yeah, but what about the live audience? The live audience will pay attention regardless of what you do. When you're doing a television program, you play to the cameras. You play like, you have the hard camera side, which is the two or three stationary cameras that they have on, facing the ring. And you always try to lean or cheat that way, regardless of which way you're working in the ring. And even we're told as referees not to cover the talent on that side of the ring and block their faces or anything like that. So that's a good catch you got there, Justin, where, the guys are taught to work to the cameras. And I think, I don't want to say, I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but other companies, I think, tend to forget that, or forget to instill it in their talent, that when we do for TV, it's a little bit different than when we're doing a live event.
Well, and Jimmy, if you were working tonight's Raw, if you went to do no matter where the talent positioned themselves for the pin, if you went to do the 3 count, if your ass and feet was facing the hard camera, you would get chewed out.
Oh my goodness, big time.
You need to have your hand coming down to the mat, and your not your face so much, but your arm needs to be facing in the direction of the hard cameras. And that's and I watch other companies, and I see I'm staring at the bottom, I'm staring at the soles of their shoes and their pants. Yeah, and I can't see their hands unless you cut to a different camera.
I've seen it so many times too, and it just baffles my mind sometimes. And I get it. You want to be able to see where the shoulders are as well. See, that's the challenge. You got to position yourself where you're able to see shoulders, but still not get in the shot of the camera and stuff. I got chewed out, almost chewed out one time, because of that edict that we had, where Vince didn't want you, blocking camera shots, especially on the hard side. There was a pinfall attempt, and I actually did a slide out under the bottom rope to the floor, and counted on the ring apron beside the camera. To count to 3, which was the finish. Rang the bell, got back in the ring, raised a hand. I get back to Gorilla, and I see the glasses down here, and I went, uh-oh. So, James, why did you slide out of the ring to make the count? I said, well, if I positioned myself, boss, to see both shoulders, I would have been blocking the camera shot. So I figured maybe sliding outside the ring, I could still see both shoulders and count to 3. Okay, good answer. Put the glasses back up, and that was it. I was like, and then Briscoe's going, go.
Did he call you James?
Yeah, James.
Was it always James?
Not always.
It's just mad, like a parent.
That's what it felt like.
Oh my God, that'd be terrifying.
Did
he know your middle name?
I don't think he knew the Korderas. I don't think he knew the Korderas. That was a Hunter thing. Chief, it was Jimmy Jam. So
oh man, that would be terrifying. But yeah, the hard cam, I know there's some people like, that shouldn't matter. You can, even if you don't know there's a difference. Like even if you don't know it matters, it matters.
It does matter.
So we get to the main event. It's the 6-man elimination match for the number 1 contendership to the U.S. title. All the guys have promos backstage before they get to this match. Ziggler is the most interesting in the sense that Ali attacked him and said, do I have your attention now? Match was fun. Rollins stomps Miz to eliminate him. Rollins pedigrees Ziggler to eliminate him. Omos distracts Lashley, and when Balor tries to take advantage, Rollins stomps him and eliminates Balor. Then Omos chucks Rollins. Lashley spears Corbin to eliminate him. Theory hits Lashley with the belt, causing Omos to try to slam Theory, but then he and Rollins take out Omos, and then Lashley spears Rollins and gets the win and will face Theory next week. This looks like what most of my WWE 2K matches look like, but Jimmy, let's start with you. This one, it kind of ended, I think, with the people we thought were going to be in the final 2, and it kind of ended with how I feel like the result isn't that big of a surprise, but I personally thought it was really fun the way they got to it. What about you?
No, I did think it was fun. I just thought that, let me put it this way. I thought there'd be a few more eliminations before the the ones at the end that came rather quickly. Because, especially when you're trained to watch the time and it's coming up on, 5 minutes to 11, there's still 4 guys left in the match. Boy, they're going to have to get to these finishes really quickly if they're going to hit their times and stuff like that. So you're expecting, like a downhill roll for like, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
So, but for most of the match, it was paced very well in giving certain guys the ring at certain times to do their spots and do what they had to do. I think the right guy won here. They made him look like $1 million. Even in the loss, they made Seth look like $1 million because he got 3 pins to Bobby's 2. So there's an argument for him. He says, well, you know what? Hey, big man, you may have won the match and going on to face the champ, but I eliminated more people in that match. So he's got an argument to go forward afterwards. So who knows?
Yeah, and it was a good job, Justin. I feel like the other guys, like a Baron Corbin, Miz, and who's the other one? I'm Ziggler. They great match like this, but also losing. I mean, it doesn't really hurt that Corbin lost the match, but I feel like it was more interesting than just Rollins versus Lashley #1 contendership.
Yeah, it was. Nobody got harmed in it. To your point, Seth has an argument coming out of this. Let's call it what it was. You're putting 6 very capable athletes out there to fill 40 minutes. That's what this was. You got one more Raw to go until Rumble. Rumble's a tricky show as is, right? Because you only have a couple matches beyond the Rumble match. So everything else is everybody's going into, guys and girls are going into 30-man or 30-woman Rumble match, right? So stories going into Rumble are tricky. So next week you have this big event, anniversary show, and they did a great job tonight, as we talked about, having some pivotal matches to promote next week of the current storylines. So yeah, it's like you got to get out of this final 40 minutes, which is the final 3 segments, probably three commercial breaks, and that's what they did. And like Jimmy said, they didn't eliminate guys to the very end to keep everybody as part of the match, to keep them as able to share the workload. It was what it was. I'm fine with Lashley versus Theory. I'm curious to see what the booking of the match is next week. One, because of the Lashley, is he going to be back with MVP? Is he not? Also, Theory's going into WrestleMania season here. A lot of speculation of who his feud and match could be. Maybe a legend that you can or can't see. So, there's intrigue. But yeah, the ending was what it was tonight. I don't have any. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It was what it was. They did what they had to do. They're trying to get to next week, which next week's going to be big.
My time is up, my time is now writes itself for old Theory. So, especially before because if next week is a big show and then after that is the Rumble, I mean, I feel like I had a lot of downer comments here. It wasn't that bad of a show, though. I don't think it was entertaining considering what it was. I'd say it's a fine show. Jimmy, what about you? Overall thoughts?
No, I thought it was a fun show. It had its moments, and obviously it definitely wasn't a home run. That's for sure. I'd call it probably at least a solid double.
Yeah. I was at AEW in LA this week, and it was like a great crowd. The crowd was fantastic. I don't know, I came across on TV, but really fun and loud crowd. So I don't know, Justin, maybe the crowd not being into about half of the show took me out of it a little bit. But what about your thoughts? Kind of closing thoughts.
I thought that it was an okay show. It wasn't the best, but definitely wasn't the worst. It was the show they had to do to get to the big go home show next week. That's what it was. There was points again. There's flaws. The Mia Yim, Scott. There was flaws. I mean, that's what it is. But I continue, especially when we're focused on what's going on behind the scenes. I always compare things to what was it like this time last year. This was still a better, productive 3-hour show for what they were trying to accomplish than what it was a year ago. So I give that a certain amount of merit. I'm looking forward to next Monday's show. I'm really looking forward to Rumble again with us three. It's going to be a late Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Yeah.
It's going to be, well, especially for Jimmy now. You're on the West Coast, but it's going to be but it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have so much fun talking about that. I hope the chat room is as lively as we will be. And again, I'd say what we said earlier. Please, if you are, put it on your calendar for that Royal Rumble Saturday night. Put it on your calendar. Watch us live or check out the archive. Leave a comment. Do something. Share the comments, especially comments and ratings. Do something to let us know and let the world know that you're into this podcast, because we got a big 2023 ahead of us.
Yes, lots of big stuff. And as we head out that way, Justin, where can the world find you online and all the stuff you're working on?
At Justin LaBar, here on Monday nights with Triple J. Wednesday nights, myself, Jimmy, and Issa for AEW. Fridays mornings, Spar with LaBar on Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM. And then, of course, like I said, Saturday Rumble, a week from Saturday with you two. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
And Jimmy, how about you? Where can we hear you ranting about stuff?
Oh, on all my social media platforms, you can hear me do my ref and rant from Monday to Friday every week. And you, of course, here on Monday nights with Triple J, and like Justin said, on Wednesday nights with him and Issa, and after the Rumble. And now you can hear me and my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, on Wednesdays doing the Roughing It Up podcast.
Yeah, I just started following you guys on Twitter, and I think everybody in the chat should do the same. I'm assuming you're on other platforms as well. I don't know, but I started following you on Twitter, so that's what I'm promoting. You can follow me and all the stuff I'm working on at Real Jack Farmer and at Wrestling Inc. All the shows. Speaking of, Raj and I are doing a news show on Thursday, so we should be covering some more news there. Also, Raj and I do a show called Practical Money, where we chat about all of his investments and stuff like that. It's good, fun financial advice. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, though. Tommy O, Dylan Matthews, Night One, Dream Realm Studios, Baby Ice, and Birdie DC, Brian Connolly, Antoine Phillips, John Millard, Droy J, Peter P, Casey J, lots of people, Jeff Bailey, wow, lots of names here. Ethan Cruz coming in late, by the way. Rocky in the chat, I'm reprimanding him for coming in late. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Your 5-star reviews mean a lot. We want to show Static Media who the best podcast is, so leave those reviews. That does it for us. We will see you guys for the NXT After Show tomorrow.